All right, if you're a developer who's ready to get serious and move way beyond basic CI/CD, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're laying out the complete roadmap to mastering GitHub Actions, not just to be proficient, but to land that senior DevOps role. We're going to map out the whole journey.
So, are you really ready to make that leap? Good, because this isn't about learning a couple of new tricks. This is about fundamentally changing how you think about automation, security, and deployment.
And this right here, this is the core idea. We're not building little toy projects. Everything we do is going to be filtered through three key principles. First, depth. That means you actually understand why you're using a tool, not just how. Then, production realism. So the skills you're building are the ones companies are desperate for right now. And maybe most important of all, a security-first mindset. At the senior level, that is absolutely non-negotiable. Okay, let's dive right in. You know, like any big project, it all starts with a rock-solid foundation. This is where we build the essential habits and the deep understanding that everything else is going to sit on top of.
Think of the first 3 weeks as an intense boot camp. Week 0 is all about just getting your house in order. We're talking repo hygiene, consistent branch names, clear commit messages, and getting a basic minimum viable CI pipeline up and running. From there, you master the core mechanics, what workflows are, how jobs and triggers work. Then, by week 2, you're already tackling some pretty advanced stuff, like matrix builds that let you test your code across, say, different operating systems or language versions all at once. And you'll use service containers to spin up temporary databases or other services for your tests. It's all about mimicking the real world.
And now we get to the heart of it all. This is where you graduate from just testing code to the really critical stuff, packaging your application, releasing it, and most importantly, securing your entire software supply chain. This is where senior-level skills are truly forged. You know, the modern way to release software is all about trust and being able to verify everything. So of course, you build your container first. But then, it gets interesting. You generate an SBOM, a software bill of materials. Think of it like an ingredients list for your code, so you know exactly what's inside. Next, you create provenance, which is like a birth certificate for your build, proving where it came from and how it was made. And finally, you sign it using a tool like Sigstore, which puts a tamper-proof seal on it that anyone can check without you ever having to share a secret key. So how do you securely connect that pipeline to the cloud, like AWS or GCP? The answer is OpenID Connect, or OIDC. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer. It basically lets your GitHub Actions workflow talk directly to the cloud provider and get short-lived, temporary credentials. And the huge benefit there? You completely get rid of long-lived API keys stored as secrets, which honestly is one of the biggest security holes you can have. And here's the crucial point. That security-first mindset has to be baked into every single step. This is not a checklist you run through at the end. For example, you're not just setting broad permissions for your whole workflow, you're hardening them for every single job to enforce the principle of least privilege. It's about automating security scanning with tools like CodeQL and just making security the default, not an afterthought. Okay, so let's see how all this comes together in the final stage, actually deploying your application to the cloud and managing its infrastructure. This is where you take control of the entire ecosystem, from the code all the way to a running production service. Now, at a senior level, you're going to run into two main strategies for deploying to the cloud. The first is GitOps. It's a pull-based model where your Git repository is the absolute source of truth, and tools like Argo CD are constantly pulling from it to make sure your live environment matches. The second is the more traditional push-based deploy, where your workflow actively pushes changes out to the cloud, all secured with OIDC. A true senior engineer has to master both and, more importantly, know which one to use and when. And as you really start to scale, you'll master infrastructure as code with tools like Terraform, even previewing your infrastructure changes right inside a pull request. To handle the workload, you'll probably move to self-hosted ephemeral runners on Kubernetes. These are awesome. They're temporary runners that spin up just for a single job and then poof, they disappear. This gives you incredible speed, perfect isolation between jobs, and total control over your build environment. So, after all this work, what's the real payoff? Well, it's about translating these deep technical skills into real, tangible projects that don't just prove your expertise, but help you absolutely crush the interview and land that senior role you're after. So what does a project that screams senior level actually look like? Well, forget about simple apps. We're talking about building a full CI/CD pipeline for a polyglot monorepo. That's a single repo with code in multiple programming languages.
Or maybe architecting a reusable workflow catalog that your entire organization can use. These are the kinds of high-impact, scalable projects that make a hiring manager sit up and take notice immediately.
And really, it all comes down to this. Being able to put a statement just like this one on your resume is incredibly powerful. You're not just saying what you know, you're showing direct high-value business impact. It instantly tells a recruiter that you get modern security, you understand compliance, and you know cloud automation on a deep, practical level.
So there you have it. We've walked the entire path, from the foundational skills all the way to the senior-level payoff. You have the roadmap now to completely transform your career. So, really, the only question left to ask is, what will your first showcase project be?